Good morning, everyone, and welcome to What's Up Wednesday. Joining me again, Hadyn, our CEO of the Foundation Fund Managers Group. Welcome, Hadyn, and thanks for joining us again this Wednesday.
Hi, Gary. Thanks for having me. And yeah, we'll keep it nice and short and sweet this week. It's been a fairly quiet week in the currency market, but we'll have a quick update and get on with our days.
That's fantastic. Before we get onto that, I've got some very interesting news from you this morning about a Dolce & Gabbana fridge for 1.3 million rand. Talk about diversification. I see there's a special on at Hirsch's for $1 million now, 999,000. So anyone who's wanting to get a fridge and get 30% off, I would head down to Hirsch's.
Yeah, I mean, what a deal. That's basically for free. I'm going down there after this.
Fantastic. So Hades, after this last week, we're looking back now in August, and the Rand seems to have had a volatile August, but in September, we seem to be drifting sideways. Our trading ranges have been very muted. Is there a reason for this?
Yeah, you know, August was a bit of a wild ride, and it actually is known as a volatile month in the financial calendar, usually because of thin liquidity, i.e. the Northern Hemisphere is away on holiday, sitting on the beaches, not a lot of traders in front of their desks. So any little headline is amplified in terms of its impact in the market. But we did get pulled from pillar to post as low as the 1430s or 1420s as our best level, and right up as high as 1539 as our worst level. So it was quite a wide trading range over August. And September is usually pretty volatile as well, but it hasn't been the case this month. We've been drifting sideways. I mean, we're at 1453 on the 1st of September, but that was because we were on the recovery trend from that 1539 blowout. And for most of the month, we've been bouncing between 1415 and 1430 as a fairly narrow trading range. We've managed last Friday, the very briefest of spikes to 1405. But just as quickly as we went down there, it was snuffed out and sent back into the 1420s. And then last night, we've gone to 1435 to break above the upper range. We'll see if that weakness sticks or if we come back into the prevailing ranges. But so far, it's been a fairly boring month, which maybe not a bad thing after August.
Brilliant. So as we know, the Rand takes most of its direction from the dollar, and the recent data releases have been rather patchy. Is there anything on the US calendar right now that the Rand needs to be keeping its eye on?
Yeah, for sure. US data and the dollar movements are the primary driver of Rand movements. We take 80 or 90% of our direction from what happens to the dollar. And US market data has been patchy of late. We've had June and July, their jobs reports coming in incredibly strong, close to 1 million new jobs in each of those months, but then August falling way short of expectations at 235,000 jobs. We've had their inflation prints telling different stories, where last Friday, producer inflation in the States jumped up to an 11-year high at 8.3%. Producer inflation is typically an indicator of price increases to the consumer. And if they have running a high inflation rate in the States, that's dollar positive. And that's what knocked us back after shooting to 1405 on Friday midday. The high producer price reports knocked us back into the 1420s. But then yesterday, their consumer inflation, which was expected to come in relatively hot, surprised the market by coming in lower than expected. Their consumer headline inflation at 5.3% is still at very elevated levels. But what the market really focused on is their core inflation reading, core inflation being price increases without energy or food price increases, because those are very volatile sectors. And core inflation was forecast to go from 4.3% to 4.2%, came down to 4%, which sounds like a small improvement, but in the world of the market, that's a big miss, and that put the brakes on any speculation around the Fed being forced to tighten monetary policy, and the dollar weakened and the Rand strengthened off the back of that. So that's what's happened in the sort of immediate rear view mirror, if you want to call it that. But what's coming around the horizon is the next Fed meeting. They seem to be coming thick and fast at the moment. We've only just had the Jackson Hole Symposium on the 26th to the 28th of August. But now we've got the next Federal Reserve meeting on the 21st to the 22nd of September. That's Tuesday and Wednesday next week. always a big event on the currency market. What is Jerome Powell going to say? He's the head of the Federal Reserve. Is he going to give any clues away in terms of policy tightening in 2021? And if so, the dollar will strengthen. But if he really puts the brakes on that speculation, the dollar will weaken. So we're probably going to trade sideways, and we never say never, but it looks like we'll have a smooth run of it at muted trading ranges until next Wednesday when Powell speaks, and then kick off from there.
Fantastic. So locally, we had some news on Sunday night from Cyril Ramaphosa regarding alert level 3 moved down to alert level 2. How our vaccine program has been rolling out has also been very favorable by the seams of things, and we've been making good progress. So have these headlines helped the rand?
It's always good to get positive news on the local front, and alert levels 3 down to 2 is exactly that. I was just chatting with my team yesterday how strange it is, or funny it is, that this time last year, when we heard that Cyril was going to speak and there's possibly a relaxing of alert levels, the country was getting the popcorn ready and watching his address and cheering at the news. This time around, it's okay, great, but we just keep going with our lives. We've just really been so desensitized to living with COVID and living with lockdown restrictions that we just sort of move from one stage to the next. And unless you work in the hospitality industry, it doesn't really make a difference to our lives. But it's good news nonetheless. Alcohol restrictions have been relaxed. The curfew is shorter. And most importantly, head counts have been increased, allowed head counts in both indoor and outdoor gatherings. And all of those put together should mean an uptick in economic activity, an uptick in job creation. And that's obviously a positive for the country and hopefully the rand. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, it really depends on what the dollar's doing with where the rand goes. And the vaccination story is also a good one. I know that it's a hot topic of debate around the braai on a Saturday is, are you going to get vaccinated? Aren't you going to get vaccinated? And each can have their own opinion. But at the end of the day, the stats that I saw this morning, having a look around, is that around 15 million shots have been administered in SA to date, and about 7.5 million people are fully vaccinated. We've got a long way to go to get to any meaningful state of sort of countrywide vaccination. But what the encouraging part of the chart that I saw was there was a very steady incline over the last few months in terms of numbers of shots administered. And that suggests that at this pace, we're going to have a whole lot more people vaccinated come December. And obviously December is when we all go on holiday and congregate on beaches and shopping malls. And again, this time last year, that brought on the onset of our second wave of infections and increased lockdowns. So if we have a higher vaccination rate by December, hopefully our fourth wave, which more than likely is going to happen at some point, but hopefully the fourth wave won't be too severe. And again, that's good for us as a country and hopefully good for the rand.
Oh, that's wonderful. Hadyn, thanks so much for sharing today. If any of the listeners would like to speak about diversifying and investing offshore, please look up Quattro at www.qfg.co.za and we'll get you in touch with Hadyn. Hadyn, yeah, thanks once again, and I look forward to seeing you again in a week's time.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary. Thanks for having me. Chat soon.
Lovely. Cheers, Hadyn.